Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the How to Submit Winning Design Award Entries. It's being presented by the 4 Maryland AIA component. I am Sandy Worthman, Executive Director for AIA Maryland. We also have with us today on the call Scott Knudsen. He's been the Design Awards Committee Chair for Potomac Valley, and he's currently on the Design Awards Committee for AIA Maryland as well. We have Renee Katakoulis, AIA Potomac Valley Executive Director, and Kathleen Lane, AIA Baltimore Executive Director, and Melinda Kay from AIA Chesapeake Bay. Each of those will be spending a few moments giving you some specific details about the programs coming up. But we're going to get the show started with Scott, so hopefully can end on time.
Thanks, Sandy. I think these are just the last time we gave this presentation a couple years ago. This was our summary slide, but we thought we would just hit these points right off the bat. Obviously, you're submitting in order to win an award, so we not interested in anybody coming in, win, place, or show. But after that, it doesn't matter. And the absolute most important thing, it sounds stupid and obvious, is that your design be a fabulous design and that it sing and sell its story. Be very critical with yourselves as you're reviewing which projects to submit. If you're trying to, you can submit multiple jobs, and we're happy to judge all of them. Some people win multiple awards in a year, and that's fine. But if you don't think the work is your best work or is on par with the best work you see in the marketplace, it's probably not going to win, quite frankly. So, start with that as your beacon. And where we say as the footnote, it's consistent and thorough, we mean every aspect of it, at least every aspect that you let the judges see. Though there have been some projects that we've seen that are on their path to getting an award until the judges come across a mediocre photo of a detail that didn't work or something that's just banal, and it goes south quickly. Distinctiveness, I think, is interrelated with that, but the distinctiveness as it relates to the story. It's very important that the project has a good story to tell and that you tell it concisely and clearly. The imagery that you use to support that story is critical, unless you are submitting in one of the few categories that prohibits professional photography. I know Potomac Valley has a small projects category where we're trying to encourage people who've done, who knows what, say a bathroom renovation, to submit that can't afford a professional photographer. They don't, so therefore the competition doesn't allow that. But you need to use a professional photographer. The only exceptions I've seen to that are architects who are good enough photographers that another architect would consider hiring them to photograph their work. And the substance and the content. It's not just a beauty contest. It is important to have some meat behind the story that you're telling, and to put that on the page. Next. Who's covering this slide?
That
Renee?
would be me. So we've made a couple of updates to our submission form this year, which is used all across all the chapters. And but the parts that remain the same is your image files. Make sure your images have captions and you provide photo credits. Your jury PDF, it now extended to 11 pages, and I'll explain the part that's slightly different. It's a combination of text and imagery. This is your opportunity to give all the information to the jury for them to review and all the details. New this year, and the reason why we say it's up to 11 pages, is we've added a supplemental information page for the jury. This takes out some of the optional fields, but this is your opportunity to provide all of the additional information to the jury that hasn't already been provided in the PDF, technical information. restrictions, site limitations, all of that very specific information that hasn't been included elsewhere in your PDF. This is your opportunity to provide that for the jury. Beyond the jury PDF, we also have our 3-page presentation PDF, and this is what is used during design awards celebrations, the galas that you go to be able to display those on monitors, and those images are used for publicity. And lastly is the payment of the entry fee. Each particular component, each Maryland competition has different sets of criteria and entry fees. So make sure you review all of those on the call for entries, and we'll give you a website at the end where you can go and find all of the respective competitions and their call for entries. You can go back and edit and continue working on your submissions up until the deadline, and each component has a very strict deadline, and in fairness to all, no late submissions will be accepted. So take a look at that, but lastly, to complete your project, you must click on Submit and Final at the end and pay your fees before the entry deadline. Scott, back to you.
Oh, great. Okay.
But again, we'll remind participants to please mute their phones so we reduce background noise for everyone. And Scott, if you'd like to take the jury instructions. So I'll pick up for here, and maybe Scott will be able to rejoin us in a second. So there are 3 primary areas that we ask the jury to score on in the first round. They do score projects on a scale of 1 to 3, and the jurors will rate the projects in the categories of design excellence, sustainable design and resilience, and community impact. These 3 are there are other factors that come into play, but in the first round, when they're determining the projects that will go to the second round, this scoring system, this total of 9 points, are what allows a project to move on to the next round.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. You ready?
Yep. And the criteria, each year the jurors ask us for the criteria of what means good design to us and what they should be looking at. And the criteria have changed a little bit this year, but the first criterion is design excellence. And that's really by far and beyond the most important one in all candor to the jurors as well as to us, because it is a design competition. And the phrasing we've given them, because they ask us what does that mean, is does the design elevate the human experience while meeting its practical needs? And what we're trying to get at there is that this isn't a work of sculpture, but architecture is a utilitarian art, and it's a social art. And so how does this inspire people, improve their lives, impact society, and yet not leak or whatever else is going on with this project, so that we are concerned with program and function just as much as that's an integrated piece of the design. Next. Sustainable design and resilience. Does the design take a progressive approach to the advancing the missions of sustainability and or resiliency? This one has sometimes been controversial to some applicants because not all projects are focused on this as their primary mission. And that's okay. We aren't saying that you have to be the cutting edge of sustainability. Obviously, if you are, that's fabulous, and this is a story you should tell.
Yeah.
But we do find that the jurors typically ask and look at every project and try to find out what makes this project more or less sustainable. And when nobody talks about anything about that topic in the submission, they're left with a question mark. It is a general concern of all the projects. And so we're trying to leave it loose of what that means. We're not saying you have to follow some rating program or anything, but so use your own interpretation of how you're addressing those issues. Next, and community impact. Again, this has two different meanings, and this could be social impact in terms of how it's improving our social gathering places and or jobs for justice or something like that. But it could also just be a contextual impact, because we recognize that sometimes you're doing a swimming pool in the countryside and it doesn't really have a social impact per se, but it might have a contextual impact. So we're saying it's social or physical setting, because architecture is, again, not created in a vacuum. Next. So the judging process, I think it's important for you to see what the judges see, right? They look at these electronically, and they're probably looking at them on their laptops at home, or they may be at work while they're being interrupted with other things. And they initially see a screen like this, where they see every project up on this is a project I judged a few years ago for a different AIA chapter, Hampton Roads. And this is the first image of your job. Each one of these icons is a different project that we're judging. And so think about what that looks like when it's a thumbnail size. And you can see some of these are more successful at that scale than others. But that's the first impression, and then we go on from there. Next. So we've got 3 examples that we've pulled out of that submission. And this one, as I recall, did not win an award. I would critique this as by saying that photograph of that lobby is not a great photo, and it's not particularly well exposed, and it looks like a magazine article maybe. At least it's a nicely composed page. It's a lot of text, and I don't quite get what the design concept is yet. Next. And then they back up and show you some design process imagery, which is great. And the jurors love to see sketches, and they love to see how an idea formed from the initial concept to the final execution. I think this slide, they could have done a better job of that, because they basically have 4 different views of the same SketchUp model, and you don't quite get a sense of how did it evolve or progress, or what was the fundamental concept. Next. And then there's that SketchUp model in completion. So now it's starting to become a little bit better. I think this, frankly, should have been their opening, because this is the strongest part of the project. But this also shows that you can use a whole mix of photographs, drawings, text, bulleted points. The way you compose the page is entirely up to you. That you can have very few words, you can have a lot of words. Because if you have a lot of words, you have to think of how does one quickly scan and get the meaning of that. Floor plans are also really appreciated by the jurors, because it helps them understand what they're seeing much better, obviously. And sometimes people don't include those. It's not required, but it usually helps tell the story. Next. This example really caught everybody's attention. Just because of the sheer beauty of these drawings. And again, it gets to, it's a little bit of a beauty pageant. And when you've got something this strikingly well done, it really helps a lot. And it was, in this case, they had a category for architectural drawing with the renderings in their competition. But frankly, the jury was going to find a way to give this an award, even if there wasn't a rendering category to give it an award to. So we would have come up with something, which speaks to the fact that the jurors have a fair bit of leeway. When you submit in a category, some people try to outguess the game and say, I'm going to go into category X because I think there's going to be fewer entries in X than in Y. But the jury doesn't always give any awards in certain categories. They really judge each project truly on its own merits. Sometimes, to the chapter's chagrin, all the awards go to one category and none to the others. And it really comes down to the quality of the projects. And so this project also has a nice balance of imagery and text. Next. And this third project was just a really strong presentation of the complexities of this cafeteria at Rice University. They have solid graphics, and they had a reasonable amount of supporting text that we did end up reading. We don't read all the text, quite frankly, unless there's something catching us to go read. We'll read a little bit of it, but if there's a lot, we're not going to read it all. And in this case, every word supported everything we were seeing. Next. And they have a good blend of floor plans and closer-up details and overall photographic images, with significant captions that again tell the story. But then they go from this to the next slide, and they start spelling out the details of how these trusses are built and how they terminate at the edges. And you see a photograph as well as a drawing of what that edge condition is. And it starts, feeling like these people really understand that building, and they're really telling you the story so that you can understand it. Next. And I think on the last slide of this project, which is here, it's just more examples of their submission, which they were image heavy, but their sections and details told the rest of the story. Next. And then they get into diagrams that even further help you understand the innovations of their structural system. It's obviously not necessary that you have an innovative system, but, in this case, that was one of their strengths. And then they start explaining the context and how this building relates to the context, which is very important to the jurors. Seeing the buildings, again, in isolation are great, but to the extent that they relate to their social and physical contexts, then we feel it's an even richer project. Next. And so in the storytelling, this diagram really, I think, says a lot. To focus on the things that matter to the judges and edit what you have to say so that it goes from being a journal to a magazine article to a headline on the news, so that it really sinks. Next.
Great. Thank you, Scott. I think they're wonderful perspectives and some great examples. So the first competition that is now open is the state competition by AIA Maryland. The deadline for professional projects is June 15th. Eligibility is projects designed by AIA Maryland members in good standing, and that project can be built anywhere in the world. We additionally welcome projects by other AIA members that are built in Maryland. We accept built and unbuilt projects built after January 1, 2013, and those projects cannot previously have been recognized or given an award by AIA Maryland. Our entry fees for the state competition are $125 for an AIA Maryland member and $225 for all other AIA Maryland members. We do offer a wide range of categories. Again, all of this information is contained in the call for entries, and that website will be given to you at the end. The types of awards received are honor, merit, and citation. And then we have our grand award, which is Project Building of the Year, and that is a building built for government or civic purpose. And details all of that are in the call for entries. Our Design Awards celebration will be Thursday, September 7th at a very exciting location, the U.S. Naval Academy Stadium. We are working to put together a pre-event building tour. For those who plan on doing the tour, you'll need to arrive at 5:30. And, of course, then there'll be cocktails and networking and the award presentation to follow.
Okay, hello. This is Renee Katakalos, and I'm the Executive Director at AIA Potomac Valley. So I'll just run you through our similar submission requirements. Our deadline will be the next one. It's going to be Friday, July 12th. We will officially be opening our competition in mid-May, but you will find that that the portal actually is open right now. So if you are submitting to the Maryland project program, and you also want to submit to Potomac Valley, you can do that at this time. Our eligibility for primary members of our chapter, AIA Potomac Valley, who are primary principal members of the design team or principal of the firm responsible for the project, may submit projects that they have designed or built anywhere in the world. Members of other AIA chapters may submit projects that are within our geographic boundaries. Those are the counties of Allegheny, Charles, Frederick, Garrett, Montgomery, Prince George's, and Washington in Maryland. Our fees are $175 per entry for AIA Potomac Valley members. Other AIA members, the entry fee is $275. For those of you who have submitted to us in the past, when we had a system that required you to be an unassigned member of the chapter, I'll just mention that we are no longer doing that. We just have a member and a non-member entry fee. We also have a relatively new category for residential architecture, which is for small projects only. And the fees here are somewhat reduced, and the eligibility requirements are also slightly different, which I'll get to on the next slide. Our categories are listed here. Just to point out that multifamily architecture, of course, is a multifamily residential category. And then our residential architecture category is for single-family projects. And we further divide those for the jury by new construction, renovation and or addition, and then the small projects category, which must be less than $200,000 construction budget. And in this category, no professional photography is allowed. These rules are further explained in our call for entries, which is on our website and at the portal that will be given at the end. We also award honor and merit awards. Citations may be given in any category at the jury's discretion. As Scott mentioned earlier, the jury is not required to give awards in any category, and they may give as many awards as they like in any category as well. Additionally, we do give a Best of Show Gold Award. We are going to give two of those this year, one for the jury's favorite residential project and one for the jury's favorite non-residential project.
Great. Thank you, Renee.
And finally, our celebration will be held on Friday, October 12th. We're going to hold it at the hotel at the University of Maryland in College Park. And we will have our guest of honor this year will be Carl Elefante, the AIA National President, who we are also proud to say is a member of the AIA Potomac Valley chapter. Thanks.
Exciting night.
Hi, everyone. This is Kathleen Lane, Executive Director for AIA Baltimore. Our awards deadline for entries is Tuesday, September 4th, which is the Tuesday following the Labor Day weekend, to give everyone a little bit more time. Our eligibility follows that of the other chapters mentioned. All of our members' entries can be located anywhere in the world, and we do also allow other AIA members to enter projects that are located within our geographic boundaries, which are in our call for entries. It's essentially Baltimore City and County and the surrounding counties of Central Maryland. You can see that we allow built and unbuilt projects designed by AI Baltimore licensed architect members. Unbuilt projects are encouraged for entry by associate AIA members. We also have a FAR student entry, Future Architects Resources. And you can see the completion date eligibility, and we also are not able to give multiple awards for projects that have already been recognized. You'll see our fees on the screen. Next slide, please. We also have a number of different building type categories for entry, and we have recently expanded our residential single-family design award categories to add some additional subcategories to that, and we encourage entries in both contemporary and traditional architectural modes, and also renovations and additions. We have special recognition, a Grand Design Award, which is our Best in Show. We also have a Good Design Equals Good Business category, which is an overlay. You need to enter an award in the general submission and then indicate that you want to be considered for that. And those are for projects that really demonstrate exemplary outcomes for clients. We have a Sustainable and Resilient Design Award as well, and also a Historic Preservation Project Award. We're also developing a new category for social sustainability and resilience. And more information on all of these categories are on our call for entries with more detail. We hope everyone will join us at our Design Awards Gala at Baltimore Center Stage on Friday, October 19th. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. And before we move on, I just want to remind those who joined us a few minutes late, if you wanted to sign in for your learning credits, please put your name in the chat box. You can find that in the little Join.me panel. And also, if you have any questions, please type those in the chat box, and we'll try to get to those at the end.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Melinda Kay, the Executive Director of AIA Chesapeake Bay. Bringing up the rear, we have an awards deadline, entry deadline a little bit later than AIA Baltimore's. It's Friday, September 7th at 11:59. Primary members of AIA Chesapeake Bay who are principal members of the design team may submit projects designed or built anywhere in the world, and primary members of other AIA chapters whose projects are located within our geographic boundaries are also eligible to submit entries. And we have 11 counties in Maryland that make up the Chesapeake Bay chapter: Anne Arundel, Calvert, St. Mary's, Kent, Queen Anne's, Talbot, Caroline, Dorchester, Wicomico, Worcester, and Somerset counties in Maryland. The fees for our entries this year remain at $150 for AIA Chesapeake Bay members, and other AIA members, we have set a new fee at $250 per project entry. We have some simplified categories at the AIA Chesapeake Bay chapter, a little bit expanded from last year, but still, in keeping with the types of projects that architects in our chapter and in our area are typically design. Residential architecture, we have two subcategories, new construction and renovation addition. And then non-residential architecture, the same categories, new construction, renovation addition. Our awards this year are slightly different than the past. We have three main levels of awards: honor, merit, and citation, of course, with honor being the highest. So each of our subcategories will have one honor award, at least one merit award given, and citation awards will be given at the jury's discretion. So in other words, there could be more than one merit award in each category, and there may not be any citation awards in each subcategory, or there could be several. And then this has been added this year: at the jury's discretion, there may also be two additional overall recognitions, which could be applied to projects that are award winners in one of the other subcategories or which have not been awarded any other honors. So those categories, those awards are the Preservation Design Award, which is for excellence in restoration, rehabilitation, or adaptive use of historic buildings, structures, sites, cultural landscapes, maritime properties, or urban revitalization through historic preservation. And then we're also possibly giving a Sustainable Design Award, again at the jury's discretion. And this is for an outstanding sustainable project designed such that it utilizes innovative or green design technologies and has minimal negative impact on the local environment, community, society, or economy. Just a few other, before I talk about the gala, I just want to reiterate that this year for an AIA member to submit a project located outside of our Chesapeake Bay chapter region, you have to have selected AIA Chesapeake Bay as your primary chapter association before the entry deadline date of September 7th. And as always, projects that have previously been entered in our Design Awards program but have not won an award, with the exception of the People's Choice Award, may be submitted for entry in this year's program, and we do encourage that. So our gala is going to be held on Friday, November 9th at a fabulous location. We've held it here for several years. This year we're going back to the venue where we were 2 years ago, the Inn Ballroom at the Chesapeake Bay Beach Club. And if that sounds too far to go, it's not really. It's just right over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. So we do encourage everyone to attend. We always have a great time, a top-notch affair. We're lining up a great guest speaker this year. We have lots of media coverage, and it's a beautiful waterfront location just across the bridge. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Melinda. Again, as we promised, the website is here on the screen for you. Renee brought up a wonderful point. We want to make sure that everyone is aware. If you would like to enter your project in multiple competitions to the state or local, make sure at the bottom of your entry there's a checkbox. I would like to submit this project to another awards competition before you hit submit and final. And it will copy all of your information. There'll be a drop down there so long as it's before the deadline for that particular competition. So make sure you take a look there. Make sure you're aware of the deadlines for the individual competitions, and enter multiple projects across all of the areas in Maryland. We're excited to have you there. So again, the call for entries for all of the projects can be found on the website you see here on the screen. If you have questions for any of us, feel free to reach out by email or phone.